RTD Live Talk Wednesday, February 28th. The last day of February 2018. Looking forward to having some good chit chat as always. Looking to find out what's on your mind, as well as share with you what's going on in my world and seeing how all this tied into the videos I recently posted from the newly elected Fed Chairman, Jerome Powell. I want to hear your thoughts on that, as well as get your take on the relations between the volatility in the stock market, as well as in the crypto market, and the importance of sound money in this day and age, because a lot of people, unfortunately, have been drawn into the cryptocurrency craving and forgetting about what has proven itself throughout centuries. So looking forward to getting your thoughts and open up the phone lines to see who wants to chit chat tonight on a Wednesday. So as I switch my screen over, want to find out who's all online. Bang Chief, salute my friend. Thanks for joining in. I have A1 Dubs. We need a nickname for this chat room. Definitely A1. Let's work on that tonight. We can do that. We can definitely come up with a legitimate name for our RTD live talk. And so ideally, the whole idea of me wanting to really, do something live and do something consistent, somewhat consistent as of now, is to basically, as you see the little subtitle, a voice for the people. So I wanted to give the audience a chance to call in and to share their thoughts. And so, this is more so something I want to make sure everyone is able to participate in, because everyone has an opinion. Everyone has a unique perspective that needs an audience, needs a microphone. So it's your time to do so. So let me see who anybody else, any new viewers. I'm looking to see if we've added any newcomers to the live chat. And so we have greetings from the UK. Big things will go down here real soon. Sound money for the win. That is very true. So welcome from the UK. It's about about 5 o'clock in the morning there. Let me know. I think you guys are 6 hours or so ahead. So I appreciate you tuning in this early morning for you. Definitely, that's big. It's good to have people from Europe, because I think, your situation in the EU or in that region is very unique, because a lot of the monetary policy and fiscal policies implemented by the governments, as well as the ECB over there, is really going to be tested come this next recession. So definitely tonight we're going to chit chat on the next recession and get your thoughts on how it will arrive and what will be some of the immediate responses by the central banks as well as the government. So I believe that this next recession is going to be one for the ages, because it's 2:30 a.m. So I must be so it's 9:30 here, so that's 5 hours. So yeah, so it's a early morning for you, but still late night. It says greeting from the Pacific Northwest, 6:30 p.m. Good job, my friend. Thanks for tuning in with us. As always, as you guys see the number above my head, it's RTD Live Talk. So it's always good to have some people call in and chime in and share whatever is happening in your area. If you have some really good news that you want people to know about, feel free to share that with us, as well as anything in regards to the subject matter of tonight's conversation that you want to chime in on. Feel free to do so. So let's start talking about, let me get your thoughts on the videos I posted yesterday. For those that had a chance to watch them, it was all in reference to the first, as it says, semi-annual monetary hearing at the House of Finance Committee. And so as you can see from that video, I ended up watching is, over 4 hours long. So I ended up watching about 2.5 hours, give or take, and just listening to our politicians, somewhat ask watered down questions that really they knew. I mean, I've watched these things several times, and not once have I seen someone actually go in deep and actually expect some type of outcome right then and there. So I wasn't too surprised, but it's kind of disheartening to see the elected officials, asking these watered down questions as if it's like just standard procedure. They don't really aim to get much done. So it's very unfortunate, but that's the politicians we have in place. So, but anyway, the phone line is open. If anyone wants to call in and share their thoughts or share what's happening in their world, I would definitely love to hear it. So let me read some of the chats. We have greetings from Pacific Northwest. We have, excuse me, hello from sunny California. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Christy, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, yes, 18 to 2008, the McKinney, the main media is giving nothing away, impending monetary crisis. Right. So one thing that's been noticeable is the fact that from, let me see, 2012 to 16, every mainstream news channel had the whole economic recovery. You heard the word economy and recovery all in the same sentence from every mainstream news channel. And then as of the last year and a half, 2 years, haven't heard much of that lingo. No more recovery, no more economic news whatsoever, other than what is becoming more prevalent, if you've noticed or if you're listening, the words recession. And so I believe it was maybe a good year ago, some of my guests I had on RTD University, they always chimed in about how we're already technically, if you look at the data that measures the growth and the contraction of the economy, we were already in a recession a year and a half ago. But as always, because they are able to paper over and to, through credit expansion, able to just cover up the lack of growth and expansion of our economy to make it seem like everything is all fine and good, because the measurements they use are so watered down. So we have those bogus job numbers where, according to the new measurement standard, it's like 4% unemployment rate or something like that. In actuality, if you use an old measuring from prior to the 1980s, it's, I heard it was more in the teens, if not the 20s. And so just all those things, you really can't, get a hold of what's the truth nowadays. So I try my best to dig in and find out what I can to share with you guys. So other than that, so let me hear some thoughts on what happened with the the conference from Jerome Powell yesterday. And so, of course, his whole spiel was that the economy is doing fine. And I wonder, I start to question and wonder, does he actually believe that everything is fine? Or is that just a facade he has to carry, saying that, coming in, you've never once heard a president or any, person that is heavily monitored and their voice carries a lot of weight globally, presidents and chairmen and Fed people, never have they really said something like the economy is not doing well or the economy is not where it should be. They always say it's going well. I think even up until the recession hit in 0809, when it was obvious, then that's when they said, oh, I think, the markets is this and this and that. But yet it was obvious because, we could tell and a lot of people can feel it. And so I have a question. Says RTD, please share your perspective on why 95% of the crypto market moves in unison. At some point, the market should decouple from Bitcoin, don't you think? So very good question. And so just to share my thoughts and opinion on that, I believe that the top, maybe the top 5 or so, primarily Bitcoin and Ethereum, are both heavily utilized coins and tokens for the most part. Ethereum more of a token that is funding and carrying the exchange weight of all the other altcoins. So based upon a Bitcoin price, based upon Ethereum price, will determine all the ERC20 tokens, because there's, I don't know, I haven't counted, but there's, every other platform nowadays seem to be built upon Ethereum. And so when Ethereum prices fluctuates, it's unfortunate that the altcoins and the ERC20 coins seem to fluctuate as well. And then in order to get into the exchanges, you have to use either Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Bitcoin Cash now, or, the Tether. And so either one of those 4 or 5 currencies are the primary medium of exchanges to get involved in the crypto market. So if there's a fluctuation there, it's going to have a ripple effect to all of them. And so beyond the fact that I know that at the start of this year and even ending last year, there was so much talk about, the financial industry getting involved in January. And so you're having all that hedge fund money and all the IRA. And I hear so many things about products being offered now related to the cryptocurrency sector. I wouldn't put it, past the financial institutions to really be involved now in the form of either, as I reported yesterday, Poloniex or Polonai, however pronounce it, being acquired by a startup company funded by Goldman Sachs. So the question would be, how many of those exchanges are now either purchased by too big to fail banks to influence the price? Because as I mentioned in that report, a lot of the tokens are already dispersed and in the public's hands. And so they really can't, as of now, even with the futures, the Bitcoin futures, I don't think that's really working the way they probably intended for it to work. but yet it's too many altcoins for them to influence the entire market. So the best way to influence the price is to begin purchasing and getting involved with the exchanges. And so as of now, if you go to CoinMarketCap, there's only, a handful of currency or cryptocurrency exchanges that are actually up and running and heavily used, of which every company nowadays has a buying price. So it's good to say if you start up an exchange, it's doing really well. If one of the too big to fail banks came in and say, hey, we'll buy it from you for double or triple what it's really worth, because they can just create, money off the cuff, you'll be a fool not to sell it. So it's good to say by the end of this year, we're going to have more financial institutions and too big to fail banks, i.e. central bank involvement in acquiring these exchanges. So I think that's going to play heavily into the price. So hopefully that answers your question. But that's why what I really think is going to be big is the whole atomic swap, where you'll be able to utilize the blockchain directly, whether it's on the blockchain or on the offline, as they may call it, to do direct transactions and exchanges without having to go through exchanges. So once that happens, I can see the prices of cryptocurrencies really going through the roof, because you no longer have to have a middleman in the middle of all your transactions in the form of an exchange or some type of meetup place or whatnot. You can do it directly on the blockchain. So that's going to be big. So hope that kind of shined a little light on the subject matter. A1 Dove says Ethereum is the most utilized because many of the other big altcoins are built on their blockchain. Bitcoin is the most bought and held because of its perceived value. Very true. Thanks for chiming in on that one. Big Bang Chief, Goldman Sachs, Circle. Yeah. So yeah, that's a big acquisition for those guys, because not only did Jamie Dimon come out talking about how Bitcoin is a fraud, then the next thing you know, they got involved and bought some. It's good to say that JP Morgan is probably looking to acquire some exchange. If not, they've already invested in some themselves. So I would imagine that the too big to fail banks, because they're missing out on all this profit that's happening out here, they're going to be heavily involved in the crypto market pretty soon, if not already. So it's coming. And I believe, as I mentioned in prior live talks, is the fact that I think that the central banks will eventually get involved, because a lot of that slush money and counterfeit money and all of that monetary expansion is going to come after this next market downturn will find its way into things that are somewhat rare, and cryptocurrency still kind of offer that unique sound money type of aspect of it being rare, in regards to it only being X amount of coins before they fork off or whatever. But that right there still in of itself is rare in comparison to the trillions of paper currencies floating around this planet. So it's going to be interesting in the days ahead. But in the end of the day, everyone, I'm sure, can agree that current fiat currencies, i.e. government liabilities issued to the people, will return to their intrinsic value of zero. So if you're no longer holding large holdings in paper, and you're holding, anything precious or rare, you're going to be much better off, in my opinion. Big Bang Chief says, I do not trust any of them leeches. I believe that. Polex has been shredding customers for about a year. They haven't added any new coins to exchange in a long time. They have bad name, and Circle GS has made the name even worse. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, so if you are I believe it was, I think maybe about a year and a half ago, I remember once the whole regulation aspect really kicked in, Poloniex began requiring people to then submit all your personal information or whatnot. So I myself, when I received that, email saying that you got to register and give us this, give us that, I was turned off. So I myself, I don't really utilize it as much as I did, a year or two ago. So I imagine a lot of people probably feel the same way. Says Joshua Bond, I've had a ticket for missing Steam for over a year. Really? They have terrible customer service, which is expected with a growing market like crypto. Wow, missing Steam for over a year. That's a long time. And unfortunately, because of those exchanges, they know that the public is so excited and going crypto crazy right now that they'll be willing to hang in there for a year, and they'll be willing to still put up with their bad customer service just because the opportunity of getting in the crypto industry is so small right now. And so if they keep doing that, really not responding to their customers and just practicing bad business habits in general, no one's going to use them, and then they're going to eventually go out of business. So it's unfortunate, but that's just how things will go. All should boycott use of any business in the crypto sphere that is partnered in any way to the banks. Cut off their greasy hands. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, as of right now, until that whole atomic swap is introduced and it's become something that people can use, or as Mean Boy said, try Robinhood. I think I've glanced at it, haven't really set up an account yet. It says Robinhood is going to shake things up. Get ready. So the question is Robinhood up and running? Let me actually, since I'm at the computer, let me drop over there and see, because I looked at it, but not really too familiar with it, other than hearing that it's no transaction fees and no this, no that. So it's free stock trading. Investing now for the rest of us. Sign up. Invest for free. Invest. So, here's a, just a word, something that jumped out at me right away that I thought I would just, to share my 2 cents on the word invest. And so I've become very leery of the word invest when it's used in this current financial environment, financial and monetary environment, because the markets are so manipulated and there's so many bubbles everywhere in every industry. The word investing really doesn't carry the same weight as it did years ago, when you actually could take your capital, your hard-earned money, and turn it over to an institution and feel more reassured that you'll be able to get that back with something on top of it. Nowadays, because of this monetary policy of near zero, and in the EU, some zero policies, the idea of receiving a return on your investment is sketchy. And so that plays into the whole retirement aspect, the pension aspect of how, a lot of people are taking on more risk in order to get a return. And so you have people investing in the Puerto Rican mortgage-backed securities, and that's a crisis that's happening right now. You have the student loan debt. You have all the derivatives that spun off of all this debt. And all it takes is one hiccup in any market to create a domino effect to cause all that stuff to go belly up. And so would you still be using the word invest when the markets come crumbling down, knowing that it's all artificial? So instead of using the word invest, I tend to feel more comfortable with using the word speculating, because there's no guarantee that you'll be able to get your capital back, nevertheless get something back on top of it. And the whole cryptocurrency market is pure speculation. We're speculating and gambling on the idea that this technology in the short term is going to spin off some profits as all the fiat currency rushes in. But then in the long run, we're really counting on the fact that precious metals will be a true investment when the monetary system, goes under or is reset to the whole new world order that's starting out east with Russia and China doing what they're doing with gold or whatnot. So yeah, just the word invest today is not really something that I think it's something people should be leery of, but that's just my opinion, because it has more of a gambling feel to me when you, especially on the retirement front, when you're told and you have computer algorithms controlling your investments, and being that they are, algorithm based, where they look for certain trigger points throughout the markets and make sales or whatnot based upon, whether or not it's favorable for them or not, and all that. That's more like going to Las Vegas to me. Says, you can't pull out in Robinhood though. Still need another route like transfer back to Coinbase. Hold on. So Bank Chief, explain that to me. He said you can't pull out of Robinhood. So once you put your coins in there, they got to sit for a while or something like that? Because if that is the case, that kind of sounds like the whole BitConnect situation that just went belly up. Says Charlie said, get ready for Litecoin to get to Bitcoin Cash levels this year, coming from the man himself. Yeah, I don't doubt it. And I've always been a big fan of Litecoin. And I just believe that with all the attention being shown to that particular cryptocurrency, it's inevitable that it's going to continue to do well. And based upon, when you got involved with it, if you got involved a while back, you're already winning as far as the nominal price now. So, I just feel more so concerned for those that are now just getting on the crypto bandwagon and getting in and bought probably at the 380 or 400 price point, and now it's at 200. Those are the people that I'm sure aren't feeling too comfortable with that news of Litecoin being something that people are going to use. I don't think they hold actual coins on Robinhood. Yeah, well, I'm not familiar with it, so I don't want to speak on it. Definitely know that if it's an option that saves your money and cuts back on fees, I'll definitely explore it myself. It means that you can't cash out of Robinhood to your bank account. So, for those that are aware of Robinhood, based upon the knowledge you do have, what is the process like? So, I'm assuming you have to put in. Can you directly deposit fiat currency, or you have to deposit some form of a crypto to then be able to exchange? Does anybody know how that works? Let me know if you guys find out. But back to the conversation at hand. As I mentioned, for those that had a chance to watch the video earlier, and it's been several weeks now, but I put together just some of my thoughts on why it's important. Really, it's important in my opinion this year, especially while prices are still low, it's still cheap, to actually still not turn your back on your first love. And I imagine if you're in the alternative media space, your first love has always been precious metals, aka sound money, aka real money. And so one thing that concerns me is that people getting caught up in this crypto craziness and really banking and hanging their hats on the fact that these things they have done well to this point. And time will tell that they probably will continue to do well, but yet at the end of the day, it's nothing like actually having and holding something in your hand, something that you can feel, something that is real. Like there's no getting away from holding something that is rare in and of itself, something that comes from the earth, something that in and of itself has a uniqueness to it because it's fine, 99 fine silver. It has weight. Like this is actually it's one thing to actually hold something cold in your hand and just twiddle it, just roll it through. I can't roll it through my fingers like some people can, but to be able to just twist it back and forth and to think this thing here is a measurement of weight. It's 1 ounce coin or 31 grams. And if you know your history about money, you can go back 1792 when the Coinage Act was established, and this measurement of weight slightly different from what it was then gram wise, but this is the equivalent of what a dollar is. I mean, I look at this when I see this coin on my desk here. I look at and think about this is a true dollar. This is the people's money. This is a true dollar to the core. And this is something you can't run this off a printer. You can't run this off of some type of digital ledger. This is purely sound money at its finest. And what's unique and what's really beautiful about this is that here in the developed world, especially, I was actually, just side note, speaking with a friend of mine in Europe, and he actually lives in Iceland, and we were talking about sound money and how expensive it is to live on an island. And so it's been a while since I've been there, so I know that when I lived there myself, it was crazy expensive. And I asked him if he had any coin shops or was he aware of sound money and that. And he's the same age as me, and he was not aware of the importance of this. And I'm thinking like everyone in that area there, apart from those that are aware, don't have access to be able to go down to your local coin shop and take 17 pieces of paper and to exchange this for something that is truly historical. And I think, I really appreciate this just because it took, several years for me to actually come to the realization that this is a dollar and everything else is a substitute. And so in my first ebook, I talked about, the four principles or four things that's not taught in school. And one of them was the idea that, the value, a lot of people take for granted the value that's found in this metal. And there's various forms of value, but yet there's nominal, there's intrinsic, there's a couple more that I can't think of off my hand, but yet the intrinsic value in that is unmatched. Like I'm running out of words to say, but it's unparalleled in comparison to what is being dealt now and what people really think is money. So I don't want to harp on this any longer, but yet, if you're watching this channel, how serious this piece of metal is and the importance of having it. So that plays right into my thoughts. Somebody says lithium. Shane, roughly a day's wage. Very true. And so to think about, having researched or whatever, to think about that particular coin there was literally, depending on the line of work you were in, it was maybe a day or 2 days wage in the early 1900s or late 1800s, give or take. And to think about it, prior to that, a dime was a day's wage. And so today, we're talking about what the minimum wage being $15. So $15 for 1 hour's work still won't get you one of these. So that just goes out to show how rare and how precious this is, where this hasn't changed in substance and form, in no form or fashion at all. It's the same since it was, when it came out to earth, however long it was, however long ago it came out to earth. But what has changed is the amount of paper needed to get this thing. So the idea of taking 16 or 17 pieces of paper and getting one of these right now, when this thing used to be actual one piece of paper, you could get this back in prior to 1960, 63 or so. So yeah, just go to show how rare that is. So leading on into the idea of, just put my thoughts together. And, at the beginning of this month, in the beginning of February, right when the whole stock market began to go belly up and there was the volatility, and every single news channel was talking about the stock market dropping an X amount of points. And so I was just at the point of wrapping up my thoughts on putting together, something a little short ebook or a little white paper, whatever I want to call it, in regards to the importance, or what I consider the 5, there's a lot more, but just 5 basic reasons to own precious metals in this day and age, and more importantly, before the next recession. And so I was putting some stuff together, and every day or every couple of days, I end up thinking about more stuff to include in there. So that's why it's been so long for me to actually get it out. But tonight I wanted to share with you guys a actual copy. It's more so still rough draft, just because I know by tonight I'm gonna have more I want to put in there. But it's just something basic, and so it's not something that you guys may not know. It's good to say if you're an alternative media fan and you follow Everything in a Dollar and you watch all my YouTube videos that you're aware. But yet it's those that are not aware that it's more so for. And so the idea that, giving somebody an opportunity to get something sweet and simple and easy to read, just to get a different perspective, just because I make it as simple and down to earth as possible. I put a lot of, pictures in there to make it really drive home some of my points. And I think it's going to be well received. And so the whole idea of having a live talk tonight, and as I mentioned about, sharing the link with you guys so that you can download it and thumb through it, is to also get your thoughts on it. Because the 5 reasons I share in there are, pretty well known, but yet the way I cover them, I think, is going to be unique. And some of the graphs really set it off, I believe. And then there's some opportunities in there for you guys as well to take advantage of. But I wanted to get it out tonight just because this is the last month of February and I've been putting it off, but it came about at the right time, because once the stock market started doing all that up and down action and people really began panicking, I'm thinking like, wow, what will happen when the next recession kick in and the monetary powers that be, the central banks and the government, being that they're always reactive and never proactive, they're going to come up with some crazy and absurd policy to keep things from, going under right away. And the only thing that can be done is them as the government borrowing and the Fed printing. That is it. So it's good to say once the next hiccup does happen, monetary policy will drive up the price of precious metals as well as cryptocurrencies and anything that's deemed as being rare and of value. And so at that point, getting a hold of precious metals will be something that everyone will be talking about then. And at that point, there'll be more than enough precious metals to go around for everybody, whether gold or silver. But the point will be whether or not people can afford it. And so right now, to have a gram of silver is less than $1, and to have a gram of gold is less than $50. So everybody can afford something. But yet when the price goes up to what a lot of people say will be its true value of thousands for gold and hundreds for silver, just like the crypto sector, people, once it hit mainstream news, once it became something people were talking about, and especially during Christmas when everybody got together asking questions, I'm sure it all happened to you, as it always happened to me as well. Once everybody started asking questions, that's when the price starts spiking. So it's good for those that are not heavily involved or invested in that sector to really appreciate the price we have now and to take advantage of it as best as you can. So I've been rambling on, missing some of the questions, but anybody have any thoughts, please feel free to call in. I'd love to hear your thoughts directly or any news you want to share. It says, imagine when the derivatives markets blow up. Yikes. Yeah, that's the thing. That's another thing that most people don't talk about, the derivatives markets. And so I was watching one of the Fed meetings, I think it was last year sometime. They were talking about how to unravel the bank's involvement with all those derivatives and how they're going to put like a freeze on all bank activity because of the whole derivatives aspect, they got to sort those things out before people can start withdrawing their money. And so I want to say the number was like a 2-week hold on withdrawals or something like that, which gave the banks time to settle their books before the people can actually withdraw their number. And so, since the Fed is, reactive, not proactive, that whole spiel they put together about it being two weeks, I'm sure it was just some type of rough draft or rough figure they threw out there, because it's good to say if the markets do crack up and derivatives do implode the way that they more likely will, it's going to be a lot longer than 2 weeks of the banks not being able to fully function or being solvent to be able to hand people their deposits. So that's going to be something in and of itself that will be very, very interesting. So we have hold precious metals until such time you can exchange them for super cheap real estate after the next crisis. Very true. And the biggest thing is going to be with that mindset of just having patience. See, a lot of people who are new to exploratory or alternative forms of investing are looking more so for a quick fix. So they're not thinking long term. And when I mean think long term, thinking as far as the idea that paper currency is the substitute for real money, which means that it's going to take time for paper currency to reach its true intrinsic value of zero, just because we've been on the Federal Reserve standard for more than 100 years now. And it's slowly but surely depreciating. But yet, I believe the next recession, the policies that will be implemented is going to hyper speed the decay and collapse of a lot of currencies. Is primarily those outside of our country. And then the dollar will be probably the last one as it implodes, because the world depends upon and reacts to what happens within this country first. So that's just my thoughts. It says in half of the world today, a day's wage is still 1/10 of an ounce of. Yep. It says most underdeveloped countries only pay about $2 for a day's labor. That asks a prepper. Very true. Very, very true. And that's, and that's like, especially down in Cuba, just having a chance to mingle amongst the population there and seeing how people literally, the CUP or the local currency people use, the exchange rate is 1 to 25. So, if 50 or 100 or 250 CUPs is a monthly wage, that's only $50 for the month, give or take. So I can see how people around the world live off less than or around $2 a day. It's imagination to begin with, not hard to imagine it gone. Yeah, Shane, I imagine you mean the Federal Reserve note. But yet, think about it, that's all we've known to do transactions, because even though legal tender, silver and gold from the Treasury is still legal tender according to the USC code, but yet we don't use it in daily transactions, so people don't really know the importance of it. So what people really think is money is when they swipe their card and they think there's something in their bank accounts. That's what people think is really money. And those are all digital ledgers just waiting for a power outage or a freeze on the bank accounts because there's not enough money to withdraw paper from. Leo says, RTD, do you think the next crash will result in the U.S. being a third world nation? Excuse me. Very good question. And so that's one of the questions I tend to ask a lot of my prior guests, in regards to the end result of the monetary collapse or monetary reset or monetary restructuring or whatever people tend to call it. And as far as third world is going to, and that's a tough one, just because when you actually experience true third world living, and I'm talking about, let me see, anywhere in South America, but a lot of those are more developed now. But I've yet to go to Africa, so I don't know what, on the continent of Africa, what third world living is like in those countries. But based upon my travels in the South American region, and I've been in a lot of places that, such as Honduras, is considered somewhat third world, as well as Guatemala. So those countries there, and to see how they live without any true resources whatsoever in regards to having anything extra. They have the bare minimums or basic necessities at best. And that is what the heart of third world living is like. You may have just what you need and not a drop more, or barely have the necessities for your daily living. So to say, if, to think about the U.S. going to third world status and us not having the bare minimum or a little bit above what we need is probably not likely, just because as of right now, there's already more abundance available that people are already taking advantage of. Like, think about how many shoes you have in your closet, or how many coats, or how many, just the clothing items that you have just for a luxury sake. Everyone has a couple pairs of shoes and coats and stuff like that. And so all those things are in abundance and all across this country. And so if things got rough, which things probably will, that means the retail stores will probably close down. But then people will actually be able to go in their basements and their houses and exchange clothes that are still pretty good. And there's more than enough excess clothing, excess everything needed as of now, apart from food and water, for us to still function at an above pace type of living. So I don't think I don't see a third world living completely, but I do see a drop in our living standard as far as the difficulty of sustaining gas for 2 cars or 3 cars, and the difficulty of having unlimited, cable access and unlimited channels on your TV, and, all those things that we enjoy now. I can see that people choosing to dial back because it's not affordable. So not necessarily third world, but I would say in between first, second world. So, give it a second world, whatever that means. But, cost of living going up, standard living going down, not to the point where it's going to be third world, but it's going to be an adjustment that a lot of people aren't, familiar with or comfortable with. And so the people who probably have a better way of understanding it are people who've actually lived outside or traveled outside the U.S. and been amongst the population in countries where, bare minimum is there. So those people probably can understand a little bit more. But that's just my opinion. Since there are a lot of financial prophets keep saying that the bottom is going to drop out the economy either every other month, and it doesn't happen, makes it hard for some to hold metals for a long time. A1, that is a good point there. And so what I look at it as, and so that's been the transformation, or as I mentioned in a prior interview I did, the whole paradigm shift that needs to take place. And if anyone's interested, there's a very good book that I would recommend, and it's called The Paradigm Shift: How to Predict Your Future, or How to Predict the Future. And it's an older book written in the late 70s, but it's a great book. And it talks about, just the process and just the thinking that goes behind understanding how paradigms occur and how they shift. And in comparing that to how our monetary system operates, I've been able to really decipher between real money and, fiat currency. And so for those that somewhat live this lifestyle of always talking about these same matters and understanding sound money, it'll be hard for you to go back to wanting to hold something that is being devalued. So I always keep in mind that when it comes to, saving something long term, I would rather save in something hard, tangible, and intrinsically valuable from the earth, me personally. But yet I would say that it's not hard to hold aside real money when you know that the paper and digital money you're using is meant to be depreciated and devalued. So if you have that understanding, then I think it'll be easier to be able to say, okay, I can let these coins sit here because I'll need them one day in the future. And so I won't touch them until I need them, just because I'll use paper for now, like the whole Gretchen's law. Anything that is of less value or depreciates, such as paper, it only happens, it'll exchange hands a lot faster than something of value. So, but yet that takes a mindset and someone who's really aware and involved, willing to look at things from that angle. Says, the dot says, do you think a bank bail-in is imminent? If so, how will the people react when they cannot access their savings? A bank bail-in is already built into the cake. And so it is an absolute guarantee that the banks will utilize depositors' funds, which is in actuality is the bank's asset and the creditor's liability. So when you put your money in the bank, you are a creditor, so you are liable for loss, of which, beyond the FDIC deposit insurance being the mediator between you and the banks, the whole FDIC, says, I think it's $250,000 you're insured up until. But yet, in actuality, if you pay attention, you watch their books, they only have, 50 billion, 60 billion on their books for to insure buku trillions. So I think Mike Maloney did a good job explaining this a while back, but there's probably 0.0001 cent or something like that available to every depositor to actually be able to get something back on the insurance side. But as far as the bail-in, yeah, if you read the Dodd-Frank Act, and I forgot what page it is, but there is a portion in there, and actually I have it written down, but there's a portion in the Dodd-Frank Act that is geared towards helping the banks unravel their liabilities. And so I believe the Treasury and the FDIC or some institution will lead the way in helping the banks resolve their internal issues. And so what will happen is the banks will basically go up, they will just, withdraw or steal funds basically from different tiers of investors in the banks. So you have bondholders, you have junior bond, different tiers of depositors in the bank that will lose out first. And I want to say the very last person that would qualify to receive funds are depositors. So if you're not invested directly into the bank in the form of a bond as like a big hedge fund type of guy, you're in the back. So you in the back, meaning you're the one that's going to get something last. And so what they're going to do is basically, I believe, and what a lot of economists that I've had on my show has mentioned, that they'll, freeze accounts. And then while everything is chaotic, they'll let you withdraw $50, $100 a day type of thing, just to keep it, just to make sure there's money and capital always within their banks. But then at the end of the day, when the new system or new currency or new order is put into play after the whole economy type of crumbles, then what they'll probably do is give you stock or some type of shares in the bank. And then from that, they say you probably have to hold it for 100 days while you can deposit the new currency through your crypto wallet from the Fed or whatever they may spin off. But yeah, bail-in is it's already written in the Dodd-Frank, so it's already guaranteed. So it's not really my opinion. That's just written in the code. So I would encourage you to take some time to read Dodd-Frank, and if I can think about it, I will try to find out what chapter, because it's quite long, but I found it because I was actually writing something on that matter a while back. But good question though. It says US debt clock gives a bearing of how much gold and silver should be approximately. Yes, that is a very good one. So last time I looked, I think it was 700 for silver and something else for gold. But yet, anywhere it go, silver and gold, and take me to the bank on this one. Silver and gold can never, watch this, silver and gold can never go to zero. So, I'm sure you can understand how I'm saying that. Silver and gold can never go to zero because it costs somebody something. It costs some labor, time, energy, and effort to extract it from the earth, which cost, and factor in the fact that it's a rare and it's precious and it's unique. So it in and of itself has to be at a minimum $1. So, but what we all know is much more than that to bring it from the ground. But silver and gold can never go to zero, but yet their spin-off substitutes or claims on it in the form of fiat currency can. So with that being the case, it doesn't matter what the price of silver or gold is now because it can't go to zero. It's yeah. So yeah, it says when they're going to steal the money. It'll be stolen when the market tanks and people panic and people run to the bank. And the best way of really understanding how this always works out is just look at what's happening in other countries. We have very recent events that everything plays into order. Government borrows too much, defaults somewhere. There's a stock or a bond or some type of financial asset hiccup that turns into a crisis. The government responds. It borrows money. Their central bank prints more money. They print money to get over the medium-term hump. It's not enough money to borrow, so they borrow some more, so they print some more. And so the debt goes up. The currency inflates. Hyperinflation sets in. People panic. Food and stuff becomes scarce because it becomes real, tangible, valuable stuff that people want to hoard. And then the economy collapses, and then they reset. They issue a new currency, and then the people are leery of it, but because they're starving, they accept it. They call it a new name. They revalue it to a new currency amount, and so forth. So that's kind of how this thing plays out. But it looks like we may have a caller. Hello? Hello, caller. Yes, this is Michael. How you doing?
Hello, Michael.
Yes, this is Michael. How you doing?
Hey, good. How are you, man? This is Alaska Prepper.
Thanks for calling, my friend. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. I'm watching your video right now, man. Hey, first of all, man, you're awesome, man. Thanks for what you do. I watch your stuff all the time, and I think you put out great content.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Appreciate you for calling in and sharing your thoughts as well. So it's not much of a show unless, I have people such as you chiming in and watching. So thank you. Well, what's on your mind tonight?
Well, I thought I might just call in real quick and give you my 2 cents on, you had one of the viewers there. He was kind of frustrated because people are always saying that the economy is going to fail and that he's probably been holding precious metals for a long time, and he keeps waiting for the bubble to pop so that his precious metals can be worth more.
Right. Okay. Go ahead. Share your thoughts.
I just wanted to give my, I just wanted to give my 2 cents on that. So what I feel people need to understand is that when you purchase precious metals, it's not supposed to be an investment. It's supposed to be a way to preserve your wealth. So if you purchase precious metals, you should just be willing to put them away and forget about them. And then one day, if you need them, you'll remember that you have them, and you'll be able to use them to continue purchasing things that you would have been able to purchase in the past. Right. But you'll be able to purchase them at the present prices that they are, because they'll be worth a lot more. So they shouldn't be looked at as an investment. They should be looked at as security or insurance to inflation. What do you think about that, Michael?
Right. I agree 100%. And so one way that I always and that's as I was mentioning earlier about the whole paradigm shift. Once your paradigm or your complete consciousness is tweaked as far as how you view financial assets, and you look at paper and digital things as the old timers used to say, ready money. I mean, it's ready to be spent right away. And you look at precious metals and those type of long-term elements from the earth, because gold, silver, platinum, copper, all those things are intrinsically valuable from the earth. I look at those as just I look at those as saving. And so I look at paper and digits as what I spend. So I never worry about the temporary price of it, just because I know that saving is for the long term. And so I look at it more so as a retirement investment. You don't look at your 401k and your 403b and all those retirement vehicles you have now with 2, 3, 4, whatever you got in it now. You're not sitting around looking at that saying, man, I can't wait to spend it. I can't wait to spend it. You can't touch it for 30, 40 years or however long, or you'll be penalized. So look at your precious metals the same way. If you touch it now, you will be penalized in regards to the amount of purchasing power that you're going to miss out on when your paper deflates away, and that precious metal, which acts as a sponge, will absorb some of that liquidity that's going to be pumped into the markets, as it always does. So yeah, it takes a commitment and a mindset shift in order to really look at it that way. So I think, if you are a sound money enthusiast or advocate, then the best mind frame would be to look at it as a savings and nothing else, or a retirement that you can't touch. And if you touch it, you're going to miss out. It's going to hurt you more than it's going to hurt anybody else.
Yeah, that's right. And one thing that people have to put in their minds is that a $20 bill for a 1 ounce silver coin today, that is a bargain. Yeah. I always tell my friends, hey, listen, when you go to the store and toilet paper's on sale, you buy a whole bunch of it, right? Mm-hmm. And they're going, yeah, because I know I'm going to use it. Well, $20 for 1 ounce of silver today, that is a bargain. In 10 years, people are going to be wishing that they'd have backed up the truck to the coin store and bought as much silver as they could have done today at $20 an ounce.
Right. I do agree. And here's the thing, if you look at the long-term paper price of metals, I think I've done some graphics or some of that in the past, but if you look at, and especially silver, I looked at this heavily, and I want to say the last time that a silver ounce of silver was actually worth just one piece of paper, which is what in the Coinage Act is what it's stated to be worth as far as a dollar is concerned. So $1 in of itself, the last time it was worth $1 was in 1961 or 62. Ever since then, because of our monetary policy and because of the amount of the expansion of the monetary base, it has appreciated as far as how many pieces of paper it takes to acquire one. And so, as I mentioned a minute ago, it can never go to zero. So it's at 17 now, and everybody knows it's manipulated by the futures and all that stuff like that. But it's good to say that at the current pace we're on, monetary policy has baked it into the cake that the price of gold and silver can only double or triple in the days ahead, because there'll be more pieces of paper looking to claim that same ounce of silver or gold. So it is mathematical. There's a mathematical certainty that the paper price has to rise, whereas which would include more purchasing power as the prices go up. But it's also guaranteed that if you look at the Fed's dollar consumer graph, it's guaranteed that 2% inflation, at what we're told, is going to devalue your paper. So if you look at the fact that paper goes down,
absolutely.
metals goes up, it always will require more paper to get metals. So gold and silver never changes, but the paper does. So that in of itself should be encouraging to realize that if you hold 1 ounce of silver to the side, it's never going to change. It's going to always be worth something. It's guaranteed to go up in value long term because of monetary and fiscal policy, in my opinion. So
yeah, absolutely. And the last thing I'll say, Michael, before I get off, I don't want to take over your show here, is just to let the viewers know that when you take what you said into consideration, and then you take into consideration the technologies that are going to be coming up in the future that are going to need silver, in addition to the ones that need it now, and when you take into consideration that the petrodollar is almost 6 feet under, when you take all of those things into consideration, and that all of the trillions of dollars that are overseas are going to flood the markets in the U.S. here in our lifetime, the silver price is only going to go up exponentially, not even just go up, but it'll be an exponential move upward. It'll be a hockey stick effect.
Yeah.
So that's what I have to say, man. I'm gonna let you go, man. So like I said, I don't want to take over your show, but in closing, I want to say thanks a lot for what you do, man. You're one of the first people that I started watching on YouTube a while back. So,
thank you.
Keep up the good work, and thank you.
Appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, very, very good response there. And so that's another thing about the RTD Live Talk. It's always great to have like-minded individuals that, can call in and share their thoughts, no more so for support, to let, the viewers and the other listeners know that, it's a marathon, man. It's not a short, get rich, get quick type of thing. This is all about preservation of your capital. That's what this is all about. And so I never really thought about the idea of it being a short-term rally to just get rich or whatever. I'm in this for the long run, just because, I'm a parent. So I'm thinking like, what are my children's future going to be like? Knowing that, the way things are right now, it's going to be, it's kind of baked into the cake that it's going to be rougher than it was for me growing up. And so I always look at, being someone of a millennial, that, my childhood was great. I remember what, I remember what a dollar could really do for me back then, and how much, whenever I came across one single Federal Reserve note, how I could buy 4 or 5 items that made my day. Whereas now, for my children, I tell them, what can you do for $1? And they all know, Dad, I need 3, 4, I need 5 to do what I could have done 20, 30 years ago. So, it's good to say that if that trend continues, which it will, what costs $1 or what costs $5 a day will be 10, 15 down the line. So it's, monetary policy, in my opinion, has already guaranteed a restructuring or a reset of some kind. So instead of what else we got? I missed some comments. Says, don't want to be a pirate. The more precious metals that the average citizen buys will be hard for the banks like JP Morgan to manipulate the spot price. Yeah, and so also on that comment there, I listened to a lot of commentaries and mentioned about how JP Morgan, right now, out of being one of the 2 big default banks, their holdings in silver is quite large. And so they themselves are acquiring large amounts of silver for some reason. And so, and this leads to the video I posted today about why Russia is, acquiring so much gold, as well as China. Not only is it because they're aware of the restructuring that they're implementing that's away from the dollar, but I also think JP Morgan, being the primary holder and probably having the biggest stash of silver right now amongst the banks, they are also aware of that same thing. So they are positioning themselves quite well for what is coming down the pipeline. And so that leads to my next question for you guys. based upon, give me some of your thoughts. Of course, everyone knows that there's going to be a reset. There's going to be a restructuring. We know what's happening out east, but are there any things that we may have missed in regards to why Russia and China are acquiring so much gold beyond the fact that it's, on sale for them on purpose? And then more importantly, why is, there's so much alternative media buzz on precious metals, but yet you'll never see the word gold and Fort Knox and Federal Reserve mentioned in the same sentence, or, that audit the Fort Knox vaults type of thing. So what are your thoughts on that? Will we see something of that nature in the mainstream media when the next hiccup happens and the recession kicks into play? Will there be any audit the Fort Knox vault to see if we have that 81,000 or 8,100 tons of gold in those vaults? Because everyone says that, it's nothing in there, but all types of stuff other than metals. But who knows? So what we have here. Seema, love your RTD guard. Thank you. I appreciate that. Cryptos are great for providing liquidity until precious metals are ready to shine, be that in short or long term. I agree. And right now, because there's so much attention being given to cryptocurrencies, it'll be hard to not get involved in that, because there's so many altcoins that don't require much money, but yet have a lot of utility in of itself as far as being used as some, form of platform, to fund some platform, or to use as some type of transaction. So, it'd be, worth your while to take, some leftover change and buy some type of altcoin just to hold on to it. But make sure you do your research. How much Bitcoin or Litecoin should one have? Stacy, I don't think it's more so how much, it's more so what can you afford to lose should be your perspective. So here's a way I would look at it. If you are a person of a lot of resources, then you probably can afford to probably put in, a good chunk of change to be willing to lose in case it goes to zero, or in case it, to return to its intrinsic value of zero. But then if you're a person of not much means or not a lot of opportunity or resources, then you may not have much to lose. So 1,000 for one might be $10 or 100 for another. So anyway, it goes, it's not much, it's how much Bitcoin or Litecoin, I believe. It's more so what can you afford to lose if it goes to its intrinsic value of zero, which is more than capable of doing. So I hope that answers your question. I hope it's not, how much, but what are you willing to lose? Because it's like, to me, it kind of has a somewhat of a resemblance of going to Las Vegas, because you're betting and hoping that this crypto craze continues on and more new money, fresh money comes in to where the nominal price rises. And if it does, then you'll make out well if you got in at the prices now. But if it doesn't, if you lose it all, how much would that set you back? So just something to consider. It says, I don't want to lose. The higher the risk, the higher the reward. Yeah, that's a good point there. But yet the risk and the reward factor also ties into what are you willing to lose? I would keep in mind that, you can put all, you can go all in, or 50-50, or whatever you ration out. But make sure that if it goes belly up, you can sleep at night and you're not donating or gambling with your life savings or something like that. So right, is going to take loss and faith in the dollar. Says, will bell bottom ever come back in style? Bell bottoms. I wouldn't. I'm sure they probably will. Federal Reserve chance to unwind their balance sheet is 0%, meaning impossible. They're stuck. Yeah, and that's the idea of unwinding or returning $4 trillion back to its founder of it being of zero value is not going to happen, because who's going to be on the other end of that of the selling? Who's going to buy the mortgage-backed security? I mean, where's the funds going to come from? Because they created funds out of nowhere to buy that. So there's no extra money floating around that anybody has to be able to repurchase that stuff back. And so I don't see how they're going to do that. And so they have charts and graphs as to how they're going to gradually do it over the next 2 years. But that's all pending no recession or no economic hiccup where they got to add to the balance sheet anytime soon. And then I really didn't have a chance to investigate it much, but I saw something about one of the Fed chair members down south mentioned about needing or possibly needing to implement some more QE. And I'm not sure if it was implement QE if something happens or implement QE right now just to do it just because. So if you talk about QE and unwinding, those don't go hand in hand. So we have another caller. Hello, caller. Hello. How you doing?
Like a leopard.
Oh, hey there. How you doing, Ramon? How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. I was catching a few of your videos on the Fed chairman.
Yeah.
And I thought some of them were kind of bizarre. The Ellison and who was the other guy? I think Al Green.
Yeah.
What do you think? Why do you think they were asking the Fed chairman these questions about immigration? And I think the other one was about full employment. I mean, were they trying to cage him into something, or what was the motivation in that?
Man, Ramon, that is a good question, because as I mentioned earlier, I've watched several of those little hearings, and they ask those questions as if like they expect to really get some type of sound answer. And never once has a Fed chairwoman or man given anything solid, because it's become obvious and apparent that everything the Fed does is more so like guesswork. Like, you know, they are guesstimating on these graphs and charts they give out, and on these Fed meetings and these Fed minutes. They're not able to solve problems. They only respond and react to their own created problems. So I don't really know what they're expecting to get out of it, but they never get anything worthwhile. And it looks to the public like they're giving, like our representatives are giving a good lashing out to this guy as if it's his fault. He's just newly elected a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know what the expectation is, but I think it's more of a show than it is to actually get something out of it. That's my thought.
Yeah, what I would have thought is, if you're talking about immigration or full employment, the two people he'd want to talk to would be, you know, the Treasury Secretary or the Secretary of Labor, and
yeah,
I think it's like, you know, maybe I have to watch all the videos you have from that session, but
yeah, you want
basically,
yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think like they missed the opportunity to really talk about, you know, maybe how interest rates would affect low-income families, you know, when they raise them,
yeah,
or how, you know, a weaker dollar, like you're talking about, would affect consumer power. But did you see anything like that in the hearings? Because I know you might have found like a longer stream to take it from.
Yeah, so I was watching the live stream, and as I mentioned, it was like almost 4 hours long. So I came into it a little bit beyond halfway, and I caught the last, you know, 7 or 8 congressmen and women that spoke, and all the questions kind of piggybacked off one another. Everybody kind of, you know, they had a question, they had a pre-scripted question or two, but then they kind of piggybacked on their colleagues. So they was like, you know, I want to just, especially when it comes to immigration, I want to mention about something from earlier that my colleague said and take it from there. But so they gave them the same questions: immigration and immigration, jobs, the banks. They asked a couple questions about the banks, and then so it's 4 or 5 topics they asked over and over again, just spun off different ways. And he said the same thing: either he shared his concerns or his regrets on prior policy, or he said, sorry, I'm not in a position to answer that. That's more of a fiscal policy issue. So it was never like, he never gave anything that would leave you believing that we can expect change. So yeah, it was a bunch of just all show and gun. That's all it was. Nothing came away from that at all, in my opinion.
Kat, I have the impression that some of these people, you know, even though they talk a good game, for example, Ellison, I know is he received a lot of lobbying from, I think they're called PPM. They're a large bank in Minnesota, so it could be they're trying to stay away from issues pertaining to mortgages because of donor money,
yeah,
or something. You know, but Anyway, thanks for putting on the show again, and
No problem, friend. Thank you.
Probably be in the chat a little.
Oh, thanks for calling in. Appreciate you, my friend. Let me know when you want to talk again.
All right. No. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
Yeah, that hearing yesterday was all smoke and guns. I mean, they asked some watered down questions, not really expecting any type of response whatsoever. So that's just how those things work, man. It says 4-hour rerun. Please link to that 4-hour. Okay, let me see here. Shane, you want the link? I can grab it for you right now. And then also, we're approaching we've reached the hour mark. And so as always, I want to keep these things somewhat short and impactful. And I know the longer I tend to, run my mouth, the more I just rumble, as opposed to trying to give you guys share some valuable thoughts. So let me grab this link for you real quick. Let me see. What is it called? Jerome Powell hearing. And then more importantly, from everyone that's watching right now, I want to share with you. So Shane, I'm about to put the link. That link right there will get you to the Washington Post, I believe it was, that I watched. Yeah, the Washington Post that I watched yesterday when that came out. And so as I mentioned, so the whole goal tonight was to get your thoughts on the yesterday's hearing, as well as the thoughts on gold or whatnot. And so also I'm about to share with you guys, we have about, let me see, we have how many people watching right now? We have about 39 or so people watching. So right now I'm about to put in the link. To the ebook that I just put together. And so it's somewhat, rough draft form. I'm not sure, because I can add more stuff anytime, but I wanted to get something out because it's the last day of February and I've been putting this off because I've been adding a lot, been out of town, ripping and running. So everybody who's watching, please click that link that I just included into the chat, and you'll be able to download directly the 5 reasons to hold precious metals before the next recession. I think I put some pretty good thought to that, and want to hear your thoughts. So one thing I want you to do, because you guys get, first look into it, and it's going to be free for everybody, but you guys being faithful viewers and whatnot, I want to make sure you guys get it first because I want your feedback. And so, once you finish thumbing through it, give me your ideas on some thoughts, what I could have added or whatnot, just so I can make it as rich in content as possible, so that this will be something that I can make sure, those that are not aware, people who are still asleep at the wheel, that they themselves will be able to say, hey, this guy's talking about, the next big recession, what am I not knowing about this? Let me find out what he's talking about, and basically be able to link them to some pictures and things like that, so they can connect and be able to find out more for themselves. So this is all just it's just a messenger book to show people some things that get them to think about what's happening, and how the next recession will be a game changer. I put it in there as to why the next recession will be something like no other. So read that and let me know your thoughts on that. But anyway, so as we draw towards the end, if you don't mind, let me know, everybody who's still watching, give me a thumbs up, or let me know a yes, you got it. Let me know if you're down. It says a problem with the link for me. Page not loading. Link don't work. Okay. Give me a second. That's good to know. So I could have possibly gave you a bogus link. And if I did, forgive me. Let me get the right one. So it looks like I might have. Give me 1 second. I'll make sure I get this corrected while we're on air still. And so I know it's not working because. Okay, so that worked for me. So it worked. It opened for me. Let me know. I'm going to try to send it again. Let me know if this is something different. So try problem with the link for me. Page not loading. So click on that for me and let me know if it opens up, because it opened up for me. So I would double check and make sure that link opens up in another web browser. It said it's corrupt, not working. So on my end, it opens up with no problems, but when I put it in here, it doesn't work. I'm not sure why. I apologize for the inconvenience. So let me see. I'm going to try it another browser, because if not, I can just try to copy and paste a different link. But I want to make sure everybody has a chance to at least thumb through it and give me their thoughts and whatnot. So bear with me for 1 second before we all log off. I want to make sure this is something of value to you guys. Okay, so let me go ahead and skip that. So what I'm going to do is give you the actual live link, because one is opening for, they both open for me, so I'm not sure why they don't open for you, but let me try this. Here we go. Try that and see if it works. Could this be it? It shows 3 in the link. No load, didn't open. Well, I'm assuming, because on my end, I'm putting the links in directly and they're opening up with no problem. So I would imagine that there might be some type of restriction or something in putting links into this, I guess. It shows 3 in the link. Could this be it? So the last link that I put in, it opens but says page not found. Okay, so I must So once again, I apologize, because on my end, I put the link into the browser. I'm looking at it right now, so not sure what is up with that. Goes to the channel, memory on computer, page not found. So yeah, let me figure out. So what I'm gonna do is, what I'll do, I apologize for the inconvenience. Is this the Russians? So what I'll do is, when this video stream ends, I'll paste it in the comment section, because apart from the fact that I'm clicking on, I'm putting in the links that I have in front of me, but it's still not going. So I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure what it is, because both links work for me on my end. So I'm not sure why they're not working for you on your end. So it's, there's some type of glitch. You're viewing it from a local drive. Yeah, it's probably on my computer. So what I'll do is I will paste the link in the description here, and go from there. So as soon as we hang up, as soon as this video loads, come back, you'll find the book in the link section, and I'll put it in the body description, so you guys can get it there. So I apologize for the inconvenience. Apologize for having you guys on longer than I would like to. So that's going to conclude tonight. In about 2 minutes, below the video, in the comment section or in the description, more likely in the description, you'll see the link there. Click it, you get the book, and go from there. So other than that, everybody, enjoy your evening. Check the comment section, check the description in about 2 minutes. Or better yet, let me so right now, I think I can probably, I'm gonna put it, save changes. So right now, I just attempted to add the link to the description. So scroll below this video if you can, depending on where you're watching that, and try to get it there. But that will be the end of the night. So thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the book. Leave a comment or email me at admin@rethinkingthedollar.com. Let me know your thoughts, and then we go from there. So other than that, as I mentioned, have some opportunities for you guys as well. Have a great shirt that I think you guys are going to like, as well as for those that are interested in taking advantage of getting some precious metal at spot price. have a link in there for you as well. So other than that, enjoy your night and look forward to getting your thoughts on that ebook. So check the description below or the comment section. Have a good night.